Okay, so like when most people think toys, they think fun, right?
Right.
But have you ever like stopped and thought about what it takes to actually like make those toys?
It's actually really interesting when you think about it.
Yeah.
It's like a blend of art and engineering.
Oh, totally.
You know,
Yeah.
we usually think of toy making as being creative, but there's actually a surprising amount of technical skill involved.
Yeah. I was so surprised by this RoleCatcher career guide.
Yeah,
It's not just about like, being good with arts and crafts.
right.
They were talking about needing serious math skills, design principles, even mechanical engineering.
Yeah, it's true. Like if you think about it, you have to understand physics to make a toy that like moves in a cool way or can be stacked up without falling over.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
And it's not just like old school engineering either. This
right.
guide even talked about 3D printing.
Absolutely. Think about a toy designer sketching out a new toy. Instead of spending hours carving a prototype by hand, they can just use software to make a digital model and 3D print it. It makes for really complex designs and much faster prototyping.
Wow, that's amazing, like bringing your imagination to life.
Yeah,
But even with all of this new technology, it's not all high tech, right?
right.
The guide talked a lot about traditional craftsmanship and materials.
Exactly. You still see a lot of wood textiles, even clay.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
These give toys a warmth and like a realness that you don't get with plastic. And you need to really understand how to work with these materials, how they change, how to make them look their best.
It's like those wooden toys that get passed down for generations.
Exactly.
They have so much character compared to mass-produced toys.
Yeah, and that character, that uniqueness, that's what makes a toy special.
Yeah.
But the guide makes a good point that there's a business side to all of this too.
Oh, right. Because toy makers need to earn a living too.
Exactly.
Ah.
Especially if they're independent, they need business acumen.
So it's not just about making a cool toy, but also knowing how to sell it and market it, build a business.
Exactly. You have to understand your target audience, what kids are into these days, and how to reach them. It's a whole other skill set.
That's where platforms like RoleCatcher are so helpful.
For sure.
They have all those tools to navigate the job market, make your resume better, and get ready for interviews.
Right.
It's so important in creative fields.
Yeah.
The guide also made it clear that even getting a job making toys is really hard.
Oh, yeah. It's really competitive.
Yeah, it's not all fun and games.
One thing that stood out to me was the focus on professional development.
Mm-hmm.
It's not enough to just get a job.
Yeah.
We have to keep learning and growing throughout your career.
So like going to toy conventions or taking master classes, what do they recommend?
All that and more.
Okay.
Like going to industry events like Toy Fair is great for networking, seeing the new trends, and showing off your own work.
Oh, cool.
Online communities are also great for connecting with other toy makers, sharing knowledge, and getting feedback on designs.
So it's like a whole community of toy enthusiasts who love bringing joy to kids.
Yeah, you could say that. There's a strong sense of community in the industry. The guide also emphasized how important it is to stay updated on new materials and technology.
That makes sense, especially with technology changing so fast these days. But are traditional skills still important?
Oh, absolutely.
Hmm.
The guide specifically mentioned hand carving, woodworking, and even sewing as being valuable skills in this high-tech world.
That's nice to know that handmade things are still important.
Yeah.
But it must be hard to stand out in such a big industry.
The competition is tough. One thing the guide highlighted was how important it is to find your own style or niche. It's not enough to just be good at making toys. You need to have something that makes you different.
So you're saying that finding your own style in toy making is just as important as having the technical skills?
Exactly. It's about figuring out what makes your approach unique and then using that to connect with people who will love your work.
And speaking of connecting, the guide also talked about how important it is to build relationships in the industry.
Absolutely.
Oh, right, networking. That's so important in any field, but especially one like this, where collaboration seems so important.
Absolutely. The guide suggested seeking out internships or apprenticeships with established toy makers. It's a good way to get experience, build connections, and learn from the pros.
That makes a lot of sense. Learning from someone who's already successful can be so valuable. Plus, that internship could turn into a full-time job.
Exactly. You
Yeah.
never know. The guide actually went into a lot of detail about the different career paths for aspiring toy makers.
Okay, I'm all ears. So what does the road to becoming a toy maker actually look like? So let's say you've finished your training, maybe even had a really cool internship. What's next?
Well, the guide kind of breaks it down to different stages.
Okay,
Like when you're first starting out, you'd probably be in a junior toy maker role.
right. Makes sense.
Think of it like an apprenticeship.
So you're not really in charge yet. but you're learning all the basics. Yeah.
Exactly. You'd be helping out the more experienced toy makers, learning how everything works, getting to try different materials and techniques.
Yeah, like lots of hands-on experience.
Yeah.
Were there any skills that the guide said were like super important for this stage?
They talked a lot about precision and attention to detail.
Oh, yeah.
That's key, whether you're carving wood, putting together small parts, or even using machinery.
Makes sense. You don't want to be the one who makes a mistake on the next big toy car release.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not just about the technical skills either. You need to be good at teamwork and communication
Oh, yeah, of course.
because you're working with a team. So you need to be able to take direction and be a good team player.
It's interesting how even in toy making, which seems like you'd be alone a lot, teamwork is still so important.
Yeah, it's definitely more collaborative than people might think.
Right.
And then as you get better and more confident, you might become an intermediate toy maker.
Okay, so what changes when you level up like that? Do you get more responsibility, more freedom to design what you want?
Totally. You've got it.
Cool.
At this level, you have more say in what gets designed and how you could be coming up with your own toy ideas, trying out new materials, maybe even running small production runs.
Oh, wow, that's so cool.
Yeah,
So that's when you really get to develop your own style as a toy maker.
exactly. The guide really emphasized how important it is to build a strong portfolio at this stage.
Oh, right. So you can show off what you can do.
Yes, you can show potential employers or clients your style and your skills.
Because even though you're passionate about toys, you got to make a living, right?
Exactly. The guide didn't sugarcoat that part of it either.
Right.
Working for a big company can give you more stability, but a lot of toy makers want to be independent, like freelancers or starting their own businesses.
I can see that being really rewarding,
Yeah.
but I bet it's also a lot more challenging.
Oh, absolutely. The guide really emphasized how important business skills are for anyone who wants to go that route,
So, like, what kind of stuff are we talking about here?
like marketing, pricing, managing inventory, the whole 9 yards.
So it's not just about being creative, but also being business-minded?
Yeah, and you have to really understand the market too.
What do you mean?
Like you need to know what toys kids are into these days and what parents are looking for.
Oh, right, because they're the ones buying the toys.
Yeah, exactly. The guide talked about how important market research is for designing and marketing toys.
It's amazing how much goes into something that seems so simple, like making a toy.
Yeah, it's whole world.
And then you reach like the top of the mountain, you become a senior toy maker.
Exactly.
So what does it take to get to that level?
At that point, it's about more than just being good at making toys.
Okay.
You're a leader, a mentor. You might even be in charge of a whole team of designers and craftspeople.
Wow, so you're kind of shaping the next generation of toy makers.
Yeah, passing on your knowledge and experience.
That's so cool.
And senior toy makers are often the ones who come up with new product lines. They decide on quality standards, and they make sure that all the toys are fun and engaging, but also safe and durable.
Speaking of safety, I was wondering about that.
Uh-huh.
There must be a ton of rules about designing toys for kids.
Oh, absolutely. Toy safety is like the most important thing.
Yeah, of course.
The guide mentioned these standards called ASTM F963, which are basically international safety rules for making toys.
Wow, I had no idea there was anything like that.
Yeah, they're really important.
So what kind of things do they cover?
Pretty much everything.
Sure.
They make sure that toys don't have any dangerous chemicals or sharp edges, and they do tests to make sure kids can't choke on anything or that the toys won't break easily.
That's good to know. I feel better already.
Yeah, it's important to know that people are making sure that the toys our kids are playing with are safe.
For sure. So as a senior toy maker, you have to stay updated on all those rules too.
Oh, yeah, that's just part of the job.
It sounds like a lot to handle being creative, knowing all the technical stuff, understanding the business side, and staying on top of all the safety regulations.
It definitely keeps you busy.
Yeah, but I bet it's also really rewarding.
It is. You get to see the impact of your work.
And speaking of impact, one thing that stood out to me in the guide was the part about finding your own niche.
Oh, yeah, finding your unique thing.
Like you were saying earlier about having your own style.
Exactly.
So it's not enough to just make toys. You have to make toys that mean something to you personally.
Yeah. The guide talked about how important it is to think about the impact you want to have on the world through your work.
That's awesome.
Like, do you want to make educational toys that make kids curious? Or eco-friendly toys? Or toys that promote inclusivity and representation?
Yeah, those are all such important things.
It's about more than just entertaining kids. It's about inspiring them, challenging them, and making the world a little bit better through play.
I love that idea.
And that brings us back to RoleCatcher. They can really help people find those meaningful careers.
Right. It's one thing to be passionate about making toys, but actually finding a job in that field is a whole other thing.
Totally. RoleCatcher has resources that can help, like their AI resume builder
Yeah.
and their library of interview questions.
It's like having a personal career coach.
Yeah, exactly. And they get that everyone's career path is different, so they try to make their platform work for everyone.
That's awesome. Okay, so let's say you did get that dream job. You're officially a toy maker. What kind of challenges and rewards can you expect?
Well, the guide was honest about the fact that it can be a tough job.
Really?
Yeah, long hours, tight deadlines, and the pressure to always be coming up with new ideas. It's all part of the job.
So it's not all fun and games then?
Well, there's definitely a lot of fun, especially if you love what you do.
Right. I bet.
But like any creative field, there are going to be challenges.
That makes sense. So what keeps toy makers going when things get tough?
I think the biggest reward is seeing the joy that you bring to kids.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
Seeing a child's face light up when they're playing with something you created is the best feeling.
I can imagine. It's like you're creating magic.
And you also get the satisfaction of creating something real, something
Yeah.
you can hold in your hands and say, I made this.
That's awesome.
It's a really good feeling. And in a world that's so focused on technology and virtual stuff,
Yeah.
there's something really special about making something tangible, something
Right.
that makes kids use their hands and their imaginations.
It's like you're fighting back against all the screens and the digital stuff.
Yeah. And I think parents are starting to really appreciate that too.
What do you mean?
Like there's this whole movement towards choosing toys that are more mindful and intentional toys that help kids be more creative and imaginative and that encourage social interaction.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So toy makers are the ones who provide those alternatives to all the screens and the digital content.
That's a really important job. So they're not just making toys, they're shaping how kids learn and grow and see the world.
Exactly. That's a pretty powerful thing when you think about it.
It really is. It makes you think about the future of toy making. So where do you even begin with the future of toy making?
It's a good question
Right.
because you have these two things happening at the same time.
Okay.
On the one hand, you've got people being really nostalgic and wanting the classic toys like the ones we grew up with.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Handcrafted wooden toys, things like that.
Yeah, like those never really go out of style.
Exactly. But then at the same time, you have all this new technology coming out that's totally changing things.
You're talking about like augmented reality toys,
Yeah,
right? Where it's like half real toy, half digital.
exactly. And it's only going to get more advanced.
I bet.
I read something recently about toys with AI that can learn how a kid plays and then change how they react.
Whoa, that's kind of wild.
I know, right? Toys that are almost alive.
So how do toy makers keep up with all of this change?
The guide said that being adaptable is key.
Okay.
The toy makers who are going to make it are the ones who can do both the traditional stuff and the new technology.
So they have to be able to do it all.
Yeah, they need to be able to make high-quality, handcrafted toys, but also know how to use the latest technology in their designs.
Wow, so it's like they have one foot in the past and one foot in the future.
I like that. And it's not just about technology either. They have to keep up with how kids are changing too.
What do you mean by that? Are kids playing differently now than they used to?
Totally. Think about how much social media and online gaming there is now.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Kids spend so much time in those virtual worlds.
Right.
So as a toy maker, you have to compete with that.
Yeah, you have to make something that can hold a kid's attention when they have all those screens around.
Exactly. And it can't just be a digital toy in a physical form.
Right, it has to be something different.
Yeah, it needs to be something real and tangible. Something that lets them use their imaginations and be creative and play with other people.
It's about reminding kids that there's still a place for playing with real toys in the real world.
Exactly. I think
Yeah.
that's a really important message. And it's something that a lot of parents are looking for these days.
Yeah, toys that are more than just screens.
For sure.
So toy makers are the ones who provide that alternative.
Exactly. And in doing that, they're not just making toys. They're shaping how kids see the world and learn about it.
That's pretty powerful.
It is. It makes you realize that making toys is about more than just fun and games.
It really is. So we've talked about what it takes to be a toy maker, the challenges they face, the rewards they experience, and even what the future might hold.
And we talked about the role that platforms like RoleCatcher can play in helping people find their way in the toy making industry.
Right.
All of that is so interesting to think about.
It really is. This whole deep dive has been really eye-opening for me.
Me too.
It's made me think about toys in a whole new way.
Same here.
It's so easy to forget that behind every toy, there's a whole team of people who put a lot of work and passion into making it.
Definitely.
So next time you see a toy, don't just see an object, see the creativity and the hard work that went into making it. And who knows, maybe you'll even be inspired to try making your own toys.
You never know.
This deep dive has definitely got my creative gears turning, that's for sure.